Welcome to Discovery Watch with John Kaiser.
I'm Jim Goddard. Welcome back to the show, John.
Jim, it's a pleasure to be back on your show.
John, Sun Metals has been drilling with 2 rigs on the 421 zone target of the Stardust project since early June. When can we expect some news from there?
Well, it appears that news will be out by the end of July. The company started drilling with 2 rigs in early June. The 421 zone, of course, was this very high-grade 100-meter interval that they pulled late in the season last year. Its rock value is $300 plus, double what the existing resource, shallower, is worth. This zone that they intersected, they do not know its geometry, but they did a borehole electromagnetic geophysical survey late last year, and based on that, they have a target that seems to be north-south oriented, dipping somewhat to the west. We do not know what the thickness is. IROC last year, when they put out the news release, complained that they forgot to mention that we don't know what true width is. It's possible that maybe they hit a spaghetti noodle right on end and that they've actually mined out whatever is there with the drill hole they've already drilled, but that is quite unlikely. But what they have done is set up directional drilling. The first rig started in the old hole, and what its plan was to drill a series of deeper holes, go down, follow this thing down dip, and this directional drill can also fan several holes sideways. And they set up a second rig to drill a new parent hole, and from that they're doing that 50 meters along strike. They're doing similar, 3 or 4 directional holes. And the idea is that with these holes, they can start to stitch together the geometry of the system, confirm the geophysics. And the latest that I heard from them is when they have the results for the holes from the first directional drill all in, they will put out a news release. And of course, because this will be very close to the original hole, the market will be looking very carefully to see if grades are similar. The 3 key questions that the market's asking is, what is the geometry and orientation of this system, so that once you have it, you can just start delineating it and we can start to guess how much tonnage there is. And of course, the second question is, what will the tonnage of this be? And the third question will be, what will the average grade will be? Will it be of this double the historical average that we encountered late last year in the 421 zone? And this is deeper. This is between 500 and 600 meter depth. It appears to be beneath a fault that wasn't really recognized before. Most of the $10 million went into delineating the shallower skarn zones. And once we have a few more of these holes sort of hopscotching each other, then they'll be able to do more downhole borehole EM surveys, and we'll hopefully start to see a body take shape. So this first drill hole will be important in showing us that there's some sort of material around this, that the worst case scenario, that somehow they hit some tiny little thing dead on, and as soon as you step away from it, you get nothing. The market wants to get that out of the way. Now, it's been 6 weeks since they started drilling. The market's a little nervous. The stock has traded nicely in the sort of 50 to 55 cent range for the past few months. It's traded 28 million shares during this period, and what people are concerned about is, are we going to get a sell-off in the next while? And this is where body language becomes important, because the company has had a very tight protocol. The independent directors have not been told anything, which is what they wanted, so that they can't be tricked by somebody like me into revealing something. But a different type of body language is seen in the sort of planning activity, and executives have been heard talking about, what is involved in winterizing the camp here. And this is an area where you really don't want to drill in winter unless you have something very special going on. In their June corporate presentation, which was out sort of before they even started drilling, they included a conceptual slide of a 2.1 kilometer decline. Because of the depth of this system, it's very expensive and time consuming to drill from surface. Once you know its orientation, its geometry, and you want to delineate it to create a resource estimate, it would be better to drill it from underground. So I think we're getting subtle hints that at least the first couple holes in what they're showing about this zone are not going to be disappointing and send the stock scurrying back to 20 cents. Now, in terms of upside, there's a significant lid on the stock. There's about 26 million warrants at 35 cents that are good until 2023. It was the price they had to pay when they financed that early last year. And this allows the holders to basically sell their original stock position and ride the warrant for free. But this warrant, although it was one of those horrible 5-year warrants, it has an acceleration clause. If the stock manages to close at 70 cents or higher for 15 consecutive days, then they can accelerate the expiry to within 30 days. So what's going to be coming up in the next while will be a battle between the warrant holders and the company to try and keep the warrant holders wanting to keep the stock below 70 cents so that the early acceleration does not get triggered. And of course, the way you do that, because you can sell short on a downtick, and you have those warrants to cover yourself in case something really, really spectacular comes up and sends the stock to $2. You can just with a timeliness sell some stock at the close to nick it back down below 70 cents. And IROC has a passion for calling up the company and screaming if a stock ticks up at the end of the day, but it has no problem when somebody manipulates it on the downside with some last-second trading with the assistance of a computer. So this financing, if they got all those accelerated, it would bring in an $8 million extra dollars. There's another $2 million or so in warrants that came in when they absorbed Lorraine Copper earlier this year. So with this $5.4 million budget, they'll have probably spent that by the end of the summer. So getting in new financing without additional dilution, that's a key challenge going ahead. So I think once we see what these first results are out, and if we gain any additional information about the geophysical target, what they're now seeing, what they're now thinking about where this is going, this could be a very exciting period, August through November. And if they are going to do a winterized camp, well, they'll do surface drilling as much as they can. But I wouldn't be surprised if winterizing the camp means we're setting it up so that we can start driving a decline down there so that we can properly drill this thing off in 2020.
We'll have more with John Kaiser right after the break.
I'm Douglas Mason, CEO of Naturally Splendid, symbol NSP on the TSX Venture Exchange. Naturally Splendid is a biotechnology and consumer products company focused on the global cannabis and health markets. Naturally Splendid is expanding distribution in this rapidly growing market with products currently in Canada, the USA, South Korea, Germany, and Australia. To view our comprehensive company presentation and for more information, please visit our website at naturallysplendid.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're speaking with John Kaiser. John, Great Bear Resources is a junior that's doing very well since you introduced it to Discovery Watch last September. What's going on now?
Great Bear almost tried to challenge $5 this week. It's pulled back a little right now. They've just completed a $10.9 million bought deal. It was a flow-through financing, no warrants. done at $5.45. This has now boosted their working capital to $20 million. They started off the year with a 90,000 meter drill program. They've drilled 30,000 meters. The results are gradually coming in. And it's all for the Dixie project, which is south of the Red Lake mining camp, where, Gold Corp was churning out 300,000 ounces a year from the Red Lake discovery that it made back in 2000 from what was supposed to be a depleted mining camp. Now, the Dixie project itself had its own 800,000 ounces that were drilled off, but it was never developed because it was in a different style of rock. But the big discovery that we jumped onto last October was farther to the south, where there is a so-called D2 fold. They detected a hinge zone, which is a special type of structural setting where if the fluids came through, an awful lot of gold can soak up in it. So they have now traced this hinge zone. It's basically occupied by a swarm of veins for about 500 meters in an east-west direction. It's about 300 meters thick. The so-called D2 axial plane, it extends 5 kilometers until it hits a batholith to the west, which probably came in later and wiped out whatever was there. And what they're drilling for are these chutes within this vein swarm, and they've so far identified 6 of them, and they get very, very high grades. You get the 50 gram per ton plus type grades out of it, but it takes an awful lot of drilling to really delineate the system. So this is what's going on right now. They've got 3 rigs on the property. One of them will be checking farther removed targets to see if this thing can scale a lot larger. But the goal right now is to show that in this immediate hinge zone, there's 1 million ounce plus potential of high grade. And then, of course, the goal is to make it substantially bigger, like the Red Lake. And that's the dream. And the market, encouraged by gold's challenge of 1,400 around the level, which level it is currently hovering, it is now putting up the money. And we're starting to see sort of this money come into a number of these plays that appear to have emerging discoveries, especially where there is high grade on the table.
We'll have more with John Kaiser right after this.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO, on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp. is a Canadian-based mineral exploration project generator. The company currently holds multiple property interests in Ontario with joint venture partners and is seeking further joint venture partners for other drill-ready properties in our portfolio. For more information, please visit our website at rmroyalty.com or call me at 604-922-2030.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with John Kaiser. John, we've heard various pronunciations for this company, Orion Resources and Orion Resources. Anyway, whatever pronunciation, AURION Resources also just upsized a bought deal financing to $10 million for the Risti project in Finland after releasing results a couple of weeks ago. Does Risti qualify as a major discovery yet?
Risti is not a true discovery yet. We jumped on this in early 2017 when they reported that they had found a field of angular quartz boulders that had visible gold, and when they assayed it, it ran very high numbers, in the multiple of ounces. And it's in a Finnish greenstone belt. They call it the Central Lapland Gold Belt. It's in northern Finland, and the theory here is that although it's younger than the Archean-aged Abitibi greenstone belt with its, Cadillac Larder Lake structure and its Destor porcupine structure, with which are associated all these splay veins and even third-order veins that end up holding all the gold. The Abitibi has 90 million ounces documented since the early 1900, when they first realized that there were these orogenic gold vein systems. The Central Lapland greenstone belt, which has a similar size as the Abitibi greenstone belt, has only about 10 million ounces identified, and most of that is in the Kittilä mine, which was discovered by the Finnish Geological Survey in the 80s, eventually tendered off to a junior, which discovered maybe less than 1 million ounces in it, but it was refractory ore, which is very unusual for these orogenic greenstone belt hosted gold systems. And eventually in 2004, Agnico Eagle came in there and acquired this and has developed it into a mine. But most of this area was controlled by Outokumpu, which was the state-owned entity. And in around 2000, they decided that, the Nokia had become this huge success story for Finland, and they were looking at the market value of Nokia, which was 4 times Finland's GDP, and they decided that, mining is really not worth the bother. And so Outokumpu sold most of its assets and decided to just stick to chromium mining and making stainless steel. And so all this stuff went out there, but not a lot happened to it. This was in 2000. Then in 2008, the Sataki nickel PGM deposit, a high-grade deposit, was discovered sort of in the eastern part of this Central Lapland gold belt. And the eastern part of it is more prospective for base metals than for gold. But SQM and Anglo-American ended up staking almost all of this Central Lapland gold belt, tying it up, and never really did much. Agnico Eagle had its land position in this sort of north of the Kittilä mine that it was developing, but all the rest, all the gold potential, which nobody had really seriously tackled, it was not available. But in 2014, as the bear market really started to sink in with the majors, they started dropping all this land. And that's when Orion Resources, which was supposed to have been a prospect generator focused on Nevada, Mike Basha marched over to Finland and did a deal with an Australian-listed company called Dragon Mining to acquire all of the claims that it had managed to stake as they came open, covering this Circa shear zone, which is believed to be something similar to the Destor Porcupine regional crustal fault structure. And they did some work there, and the company wasn't really going anywhere, but Dave Lotan had become a shareholder of it, and in 2016, he got himself on the board and basically took charge of the company. That was the end of the warrant financings. The company has only done straight share financings then. Mike Basha's work in the Risti project area found that field of gold-bearing quartz boulders, and then the question became, where did this come from? This was obviously the kind of sort of vein material that you find in the Timmins area. The stock took off. It got as high as $350. In 2017, they raised $26 million, of which $16 million came from Kinross Gold, which bought in at $2.34 to acquire a major stake. But in that first year, they drilled but did not encounter anything that explained the source of the gold-enriched quartz boulders. And the problem is this area is all full of overburden, so you can't see the geology very easily. You have to do geophysics and then do prospecting with the drill to try and find the vein structures from which this comes. So the stock sank back for the sort of end of the year type of slump. And then it had another run last year when they finally hit bedrock-hosted high-grade vein material, but they ran out of season. They were using a helicopter, and which is apparently very unusual for Finland, because you apparently don't need to use helicopters. October to April is apparently the best time to do exploration work in Finland, even though it is not an awful lot of light around. Everything's frozen. It's easy to move around. Topography is not crazy like in the Golden Triangle. And they did not raise any money. But this year, at $5, they raised $6.5 million, and they start in April. And they started a drill program, a 10,000-meter drill program, and showed that they didn't just get lucky last year. They intersected some more high grade. It still continues to be sort of these 1-meter intervals of very high grade within an envelope of considerably low grade. But they're in the setting where if they can just sort of figure out the geometry and start seeing where does the high grade go, then you will have then you will be on track to delineating what they hope to be a 1 million ounce plus system. And it's a story somewhat similar to Great Bear. It doesn't have as high a valuation yet as Great Bear does, because there's no clear analog there. And in the case of Great Bear, the Dixie is just south of the Red Lake district, which is a world-class mining district. There, the geology is already demonstrated as similar. So say, well, we're going to see something very similar come out of Great Bear's Dixie project, as we saw in the Red Lake mine itself. In the case here of the Central Lapland Gold Belt, all of the area is now pretty much tied up by juniors. The Orion has optioned about 2/3 of the 85 kilometers of land that straddles the Circa shear zone to B2 Gold and Kinross Gold. But as is usual, when you farm out something under the prospect generator farm out model, you don't hear very much. They decided to stick 100% with this project. They are on track to figuring out where the source of the boulders are. It's something similar situation to what we have with Midland in the James Bay area and its Mithril project, where they had some pretty impressive high-grade copper float. The first round of drilling intersected stuff. It doesn't yet hang together to give you a world-class deposit type of thing, but they're in there too with a 5,000-meter plus program right now trying to follow up. They're both stories which could deliver something very substantial. And then the question is, are there any other juniors in that area? And today I published a bottom fish spec value rating on one junior that has 5% the valuation of Orion Resources, which basically owns the ground next door. And if this target on the Risti project does deliver the goods this year, and with more than $20 million in the treasury, Orion is well positioned to get the job done. Well, then this will be the obvious company to benefit on the coattails of Orion, demonstrating that the Central Lapland Gold Belt is indeed a very fertile gold system that where you can find a multi-million ounce high-grade gold deposits, similar to what the Abitibi is all about in Quebec and Canada.
John, thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome, Jim.
We've been speaking with John Kaiser, his website, kaiserresearch.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on Discovery Watch are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at howstreet.com. Discovery Watch is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.